The sunset burned like gold dust across the lonely station platform, painting the quiet rails with a soft, fading glow. She sat there, beside her old brown luggage, her hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes half open from exhaustion. The trains had stopped hours ago, and the world had fallen silent, except for the whispering wind that carried the scent of rain and memories. Her name was Alara, a girl who had left behind everything she once called home, chasing a dream that now felt as distant as the horizon. She didn't notice when her tears dried, nor when her head gently fell to the side, falling asleep beside her suitcase. But fate had been watching, and fate rode in that evening on a tired brown horse and a creaking wooden wagon. A cowboy, rugged and quiet, with eyes that carried both kindness and loss, stopped when he saw her sleeping there, alone and fragile against the fading light. He stood still for a moment, tipping his hat, unsure whether to wake her or let her dream. Then, as the wind brushed her hair across her face, something deep inside him stirred, that human ache to protect, to care, to bring warmth where the world had gone cold. He knelt down beside her, his shadow falling softly over her face. "Miss," he whispered, but she didn't move. Her breathing was slow, her face calm, yet behind that calmness, he could see traces of pain, the kind that only time or love could heal. He looked at her luggage, worn from travel, and sighed. The storm was coming. Without another word, he carefully slid one arm beneath her back and the other under her knees. She was light, so light that he almost feared she might disappear in his arms. He carried her gently, like something fragile and precious, to his wagon, laying her down on the blanket he always kept for the nights under the stars. As thunder rolled in the distance, he whispered, "You'll be safe now, ma'am." Then he took his coat off, covering her with it, before leading the wagon away from the empty station. When Alara woke, she didn't know where she was, only that she felt warmth, the scent of leather and rain, and the sound of soft hooves on wet earth. She sat up suddenly, clutching the edge of the wagon. "Where am I?" she gasped. The cowboy turned his head slightly, his voice calm. "You were asleep, miss. The storm's comin'. Didn't think you'd want to face it alone." His tone wasn't harsh, but there was a steady honesty in it that made her chest tighten. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. "You don't even know me." He smiled faintly, eyes still on the road. "Don't need to know someone to help, em. Folks forget that sometimes." For a while, neither of them spoke. The rain began to fall, slow, silver drops that danced against the canvas roof. Alara watched the raindrops slide down and thought about the life she'd run away from, the empty promises, the cold stares, the loneliness that had grown too heavy to carry. And now, sitting beside a stranger who said nothing but somehow made her feel safe, she wondered if destiny sometimes arrived in worn boots and dusty coats. "Thank you," she said softly. The cowboy glanced her way and nodded, tipping his hat. "You're welcome, miss. Name's Cole." She hesitated, then replied, "Alara." He repeated her name once, almost like he was memorizing it, and that single word felt like a promise, simple but true. As the wagon rolled through the storm, the world around them disappeared into mist. The wind hummed a sad tune through the trees, and yet, inside that small wagon, there was a quiet warmth neither of them had felt in years. He told her about his ranch, about the long days under the sun and the nights spent looking at the stars. She listened, her eyes reflecting the flicker of the lantern, feeling something inside her slowly wake, something she thought she had lost forever. By the time the storm faded, Alara was no longer thinking about where she came from, only about where she was headed. And when Cole stopped the wagon near a field of wildflowers just starting to bloom under the moonlight, she smiled for the first time in a long while. "You can rest here tonight," he said, his voice low but gentle. "Tomorrow, if you'd like, I can take you as far as the valley. From there, you'll find your way." Alara looked up at him, her eyes glistening. "Maybe," she whispered, "I've already found it." The cowboy said nothing, just nodded slowly, as if he understood the weight of her words. The wind settled, and the night grew still, the stars shining above them like silent witnesses to something just beginning, something fragile, tender, and full of hope. As the camera fades on their faces, one tired from life, the other healing from loss, the voice of the narrator softens. Sometimes, love doesn't arrive with grand gestures or promises. Sometimes, it comes quietly, on a rainy night, in the kindness of a stranger who sees your soul before your name. If you felt her pain, if you believe in second chances and gentle hearts, don't forget to subscribe to Dust and Glory, where every story reminds us that love still exists, even in the loneliest corners of this world.